X-Men is probably my favorite Marvel series, at least my favorite Marvel series that doesn't involve Death's Head. And before the MCU, it was probably Marvel's major marketing powerhouse. We all know X-Men is an allegory for civil rights, the March of Progress, the fight for equality, all that jazz, but what gets kind of lost amongst all that is just how weird and wild the series truly is, especially in the Chris Claremont era. You get everything from time travel to Professor X's alien girlfriend, Scott Summers' space dad, the Asgardian Wars, all the weird parallel Earths and hell dimensions that they find themselves in. And one of these weird hell dimensions is the Mojo-verse. Very literally built on voyeurism, the Mojo-verse is a despotic hellscape of death traps, game shows, and gladiatorial fights for the amusement of the eponymous Mojo.
I wager 400 quattros on the newcomer.
Obviously, that's not a super sustainable economy, so to keep all of these circuses under control, you need a heavy. And that comes in the form of the six-armed cybernetic sorceress of sorrow, Spiral. Released in the X-Men Retro assortment, this is Marvel Legends Spiral, and it is probably one of the best figures that Hasbro's released in a long time. She originally debuted in the 80s in the Longshot miniseries. Oh hey look, it's Longshot! And they both came out in the Marvel Legends Retro assortment with some other pretty awesome figures like Multiple Man and Dark Phoenix. Marvel Legends has gotten some criticism lately for half-assing and honestly even quarter-assing some figures, but Spiral bucks that trend. She stands tall and proud above the rest, with excellent sculpt work and engineering on display. Spiral has a very inherently strange character design, from the six arms to the retro-futuristic samurai helmet and the big David Lee Roth fuzzy leg warmers, but Marvel Legends did a really good job of translating that from page to toy. The art of Barry Windsor Smith and Arthur Adams is prone to a lot of exaggeration and heavy shading, so this toy does a good job of taking that aesthetic and homogenizing it with her modern look to make a very presentable and striking action figure. She has 6 arms, which means she needs a lot of accessories. Foremost, she comes with this kind of bastard sword based off of her early appearance in the Longshot series, with these nice little wings on the side. This was also used for the Marvel Legends Loki figure as well. She also includes 4 katanas as well as this goldish-yellowish sickle or axe. Personally speaking, I like arming her up with just the 4 katanas, because you can do a lot of very interesting, dynamic, and symmetrical posing with them. And on the subject of articulation and engineering, Spiral has fantastic posability. She has double-jointed knees and double-jointed elbows for each one of her 6 arms. She has a full suite of above-average engineering for each of the 6 arms, as well as 2 interchangeable hands. She is a whole lot of woman to work with, and honestly, it's a little overwhelming to pose her. Overwhelming or not though, her engineering is solid, so you can adjust each and every single arm to a dynamic and interesting pose. She is one of the best Marvel Legends figures because of that. The only real criticism you can levy against the figure is the fact that the hair limits her neck posability, but that is inherent to the character, so which do you want, sculpt or posability? She can also be somewhat tedious to balance in certain poses, especially the more exaggerated ones, but anything's possible if you're brave enough. Abraham Lincoln taught us that. Spiral debuted in the 1985 Longshot miniseries, which expanded the X-Men universe by adding Mojo World. Mojo World, or the Mojo-verse, is an alternate dimension that was inspired by then-new cable news and 24-hour all-access programs. As the series continued from the mid to late 80s, the Mojo-verse was also influenced by things like reality TV shows, game shows, and shock content making its way to the airwaves, like Geraldo.
Lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs. All this week on Town Talk.
I also suspect that Doctor Who's Vengeance on Varos influenced the development of the Mojo world, considering that that serial deals with ultra-violent exploitation and shock content being distributed as entertainment.
Torture, blindness, execution.
All the functions of the punishment dome are recorded as warnings to miscreants everywhere.
But they entertain as well as instruct.
You must ask my chief officer. He is responsible for Comtech Division product.
Longshot is essentially the #1 star, the #1 gladiator, if you will, of the Mojo-verse, and much like another #1 gladiator by the name of Spartacus, he leads an uprising against the slave masters. In the fracas, Longshot is left amnesiac, however he and some of the other gladiators are able to flee to Earth. Wanting the insurrection put down, Mojo sends a cavalcade of creatures as well as Spiral out to find Longshot. Now, Spiral wasn't written with a backstory in mind. The only major lore tidbit was that her and Longshot were in a relationship at some point in the indeterminate past. This changed when it was implied and then confirmed that Spiral was once a woman named Rita Hayward, a stunt woman Longshot met on Earth and fell in love with. But Spiral and Rita were at the same place at the same time. If they were the same person, that must mean...
Hey, what have you done? You changed the future! You've created a time paradox!
Okay, then if it's not a paradox, then it's some sort of causality loop. Spiral will be instructed by Mojo to kidnap Rita. Rita will then be experimented on and taught all kinds of black magic and turned into the interdimensional sorceress Spiral. That's the other X factor with Spiral, no pun intended, is the fact that not only is she cybernetic, she's also magical. And an interesting character idea that really translates well through art is the fact that she doesn't speak her spells or read a grimoire. She has to make it a physical action. She dances her way through witchcraft and magic. After botching the job to kill Longshot, Mojo exiles Spiral to Earth. And there she's got to figure out what to do. I mean, she could get a job, rent an apartment, I don't know, go to night school. No, she joins Freedom Force, which was a revamped version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Mystique and Destiny took a lot of the familiar evil mutant faces we know, like Blob and Pyro, and assembled a team that would do dirty Black Ops jobs for the US government. Think the Suicide Squad.
So that's it? What, we some kind of...
Freedom Force bounced between the X-Men and the Avengers, both East Coast and West Coast. And that is actually thanks to Spiral. Because she can use magic and teleport, she was able to get the team wherever they needed to go. In addition to that, she really became the team's heavy as well. She's able to solo a good portion of the Avengers and the X-Men. The only real issue comes in the fact that she's super hard to work with. Considering the fact that she's from a hell dimension and, her perception of reality is pretty warped, nobody likes dealing with her. She's always on and always causing trouble. We're gonna leave it there for lore, but suffice it to say, even in exile, Spiral's sole purpose is to cause problems and entertainment for Mojo and the denizens of the Mojo world. Marvel Legends Spiral is far from a problem. She's bold, brash, endearing, and has amazing shelf presence. The engineering on display shows us that the Marvel Legends team is truly capable of making stellar action figures genuinely on par with imports like Mafex and SH Figuarts. In a way, I wish characters like Cyclops, Storm, or Phoenix got this level of engineering dedicated to them. But I know as toy engineering improves, those characters will most likely get new figures. Someone like Spiral is so far down the list that she's probably a one and done. And in that case, I'm really glad that they gave her this special treatment.